Peace, yogis. Let's meet on the mat to get highly yogivated.
Peace and love, highly yogivated community. We are back with another weekly flow of. You can use this to wind down your week. You can use this to begin next week. So today's intention, today's mission of what we'll be learning here on the mat is a sun salutation A. So a sun salutation A is a sequence of 11 yoga postures. Technically, it's about 5 to 7 because some of them are repeated, and it is cyclical. So you do utilize your breath, your inhales and your exhales to facilitate and guide your movement. That movement will allow you to transition, from each pose. Um, and this sequence can be used this sequence can be used by beginners, by yoga practitioners who've been practicing for 2 years, 5 years, one day, 2 days, 6 months, whatever it might.
So we will start on the mat with some cat cows to warm up. So here we go, getting on all fours. You can probably hear that this switched over to a voiceover because the wind took over outside. So here we go. Hands spread nice and wide on the mat. Closed hands don't get fed. Shoulders over the wrist, hips over the knees. Inhale to look up and look out, maybe past just the fingertips. Exhale, chin towards the chest, arching the back, pressing into the hands and the shins. On an inhale, we look back up, arching the back, really stretching back through the hips as well, imagining that this straight line from our hips going back towards our feet. Through the crown of our head, you can press into the hands and shins on that exhale, chin to chest. Taking this at your own breath, inhaling to sweep up. Exhaling, chin to the chest, really pressing into the full palms, the fingers, and the full shin here from knee all the way to the toes. So you can start to make some hip circles, bringing the hips uptown, taking them back downtown here towards the feet. Can draw some circles in one direction and then the other, or just sway here from left to right. Taking some movement as your body needs and allows here, sending the hips up towards the wrists, circling them around and reversing that direction. Remembering to keep our inhales and exhales long, maybe for a few seconds, maybe 3, 4, increasing that as you wish. Again, sending the hips up here behind the wrist, essentially coming into a cobra pose. Again, our focus today will be learning a sun salutation A, but just taking this here to warm up. We'll flip the palms so that the fingers are facing the knees. Can lean back here, so kind of losing that hip over knee alignment. Can even bring the toes to be tucked here as you find leverage to stretch the back of the arms, the wrists. For all of my remote desk workers, this is for you. You can do this on the edge of your desk as well. Flipping the palms back forward and just sending the hips back here over the ankles, resting in hero's pose. Here we can roll out our wrists. If this pose is not comfortable for you, you can just send the legs straight out instead. Or take a child's pose. Maybe none of this is fitting. Maybe you're just waiting for the sun salutation A. Maybe taking a child's pose and just focusing on some deep breathing. Or here in hero's pose, rolling the shoulders up and back. On an inhale, we roll up. Exhale, we roll down. Meeting back in a tabletop here. Shoulders over wrists and hips over knees. Keeping that foundation and that alignment. Tucking the toes under. We'll start to straighten out the legs, coming into a downward facing dog. Can alternate bending in one knee and then the other. Again, pressing firmly into the hands, making sure the fingers are spread nice and wide. You can have as much of a bend in the knee here as you would like so that you can rest the stomach, your upper half here on the thighs. Finding stillness in downward facing dog and reaching out through the heels here. Really feeling this through the hamstrings and the calves. Taking nice deep inhales and exhales here. Finding that movement here through moving the legs. And finding stillness as you'd like. Walking the feet up, tiptoeing one step at a time. And then bringing the hands back to either meet the feet or continuing to tiptoe the feet up. We meet in a forward fold. Taking just a second here to see what it feels like just to fold here at the hips, maybe massaging the calves, the backs of the legs, inside of the thighs, whatever your body needs in this moment. And then taking a second to just make everything feel heavy. You can have a bend here in the knee as well to rest the collarbone here at the knees. On an inhale, we'll come all the way up to standing, making our arms feel very heavy. Rolling the shoulders up and back as we come up to standing, rooting down in the feet. Coming to mountain pose, we roll those shoulders up and back once more. Starting at the top of our mat with our feet directly under our hips, no wider than that. Mountain pose with the hands here down by the sides. Roll the shoulders up and back. It's a nice reset here. Unclench the jaw. Take a nice deep exhale. Belly button in towards the spine. Inhale. One more exhale here. Inhale. Deep exhale out. Can wiggle the fingers, the toes, get out any last minute fidgets here. Bend in the knee. Roll out the wrist. And then again, just reset here in that mountain pose. I think this is a very underrated posture. Inhale, we sweep the hands up and overhead. Looking up to the hands as the neck allows. Just seeing what it feels like to be here. And exhale, we forward fold here at the hips. Allowing ourselves to be very heavy here in this fold. Can have a bend in the knee as needed. Rub the calves, pull on the ankles if you'd like that option. On an inhale, we come up to a halfway lift, palms right under the shins with a flat back. Feeling this straight line here from hips all the way through the crown of the head. You don't want to lock the knees all the way back. You can have a bend in the knee here as well. With a flat back. Stretching the hips back towards the back corners of the mat and crown of the head stretching out. On an exhale, you allow the arms, the head to become heavy. Just dangle the arms here, planting the hands on the outsides of the feet or even in front of. You can step back one foot and then the other, coming into high plank here. This plank can also be taken on the knees, lowering the knees. I like to cross here at the ankle when doing that. Still keeping the shoulders here directly on top of the wrist. Whether you are in high plank or plank on the knees, we'll hug the elbows into the ribs, lower all the way down. Tops of the feet come to the mat. The nose is on the mat here as well. Big toes are touching. Hands directly under the shoulders. We press into the hands, coming into Cobra pose. Here in Cobra, looking out past the hands or looking up. We keeping the hands right where they are. We press into the hands, tuck our toes, and return back to downward facing dog. Can find some movement here for 5 rounds of breath, meaning Inhale, exhale, that being 1. Another inhale, exhale, that being 2. Three. Stretching through the heels here on breath 4. Maybe stretching out through the hamstrings or keeping the knees bent. As you're ready, starting to find some bend here in the knee, walking that dog if you'd like. And again, pressing through the heels to straighten out the legs here to work and strengthen the hamstrings. And yes, yogi, all of the poses we have done are building to our Sun Salutation A. We are in the final stretch of completing that. So looking up to the hands, we'll start to walk or just tiptoe the feet up one step at a time. You can bring the hands back to meet the feet or walk the feet all the way up. We immediately come to that halfway lift with a flat back here. Exhale, forward fold, resting the collarbone, the chest here on the thighs. Immediately starting to roll up one vertebrae at a time. Nice inhale, exhale. We roll the shoulders up and back and send the arms up overhead on that inhale. And hands come down to heart center. And we return back to mountain pose, completing our Sun Salutation A. So I'll leave a list of the poses that are in this sequence, Sun Salutation A, in the details below so that you can, take this down later for future practice at home and revisit this video. Please leave us some comments and suggestions here on this video for flows that you would like to see or some feedback for this flow. We hope to see you next week on the mat, yogis. Peace.